Thank you to the Press Club for giving this opportunity to give my second speech in less than a year here at the Press Club. And thank you to the many colleagues in attendance here today. My federal colleagues Paul Fletcher, Dean Smith, Michaelia Cash, Bridget McKenzie and Holly Hughes, and my former federal colleagues, former Speaker Tony Smith, great to see Tony here, Sid Zelja, and then the many ACT colleagues who are here as well, Jeremy Hanson, Leanne Castley, Mark Parton, Peter Kane and Ed Cox. It's great to have you all here today. I want to start by asking a question, a very simple question. Do you feel better off than a year ago? I ask this question of many Australians and I get a very consistent answer. Inflation hurts all Australians. The impact of inflation is not limited to a few. I witnessed this firsthand growing up in the tiny village of Nimidabel, a couple of hours south of here, in the 1970s and the 1980s. In many ways, this was the reason I first became interested in economics. We were living inflation every single day. I saw neighbours, good family investments, good family businesses who had made investments, growing their business, borrowed money, only to see inflation and high interest rates devastate their plans. Persistent inflationary pressure is the new crisis for this government. Bringing down cost of living pressures and delivering long-term economic growth is hard government, requiring hard choices just like those that the coalition made during the pandemic. Now, we all remember the challenge before us in March 2020, and we probably would prefer to forget, is the reality. But a crisis that required difficult decisions, required governments of all persuasions to challenge their instincts, was in front of us at that time. It required policymakers to respond to the demands at the time and do so quickly, without the luxury of time. And that's exactly what we did. And because of these policies, Australia achieved a remarkable V-shaped recovery and emerged from the pandemic in a better position than most or all countries we benchmark ourselves against. Record low unemployment, record number of apprentices in training, and a budget that from the moment the East Coast states reopened was in surplus. From the moment the East Coast states opened up. From November 2021, when Victoria and New South Wales left lockdown, to today, the Department of Finance has published 17 months of financial accounts. The monthly figures show that from the moment the East Coast emerged from lockdown and travel restrictions began to ease, the government experienced a net underlying cash balance surplus of $33 billion. That's going back to November 2021. As respected economist Chris Richardson has pointed out, the net debt to GDP has returned to where it was prior to the pandemic. But just as the pandemic crisis required constant adaptation and response, so too does the current environment. With inflation raging across our economy, this is the crisis government has to deal with now. Hardworking families are climbing a mountain day in, day out to pay the bills and to support their children. A typical family paying off their home is $25,000 a year worse off than they were a year ago. Hit hard by higher mortgage costs, taxes, energy bills and other rising costs of living.